Since I've been looking back at some of my old videos recently, I felt like it was only right that I gave a few of them a bit of an update, or at least the ones I felt could use a proper update. In the past few months, my thoughts and opinions surrounding some Sonic characters have changed drastically. I feel like I've done a complete 180, and I felt this mostly happened with Shadow the Hedgehog. Let me start by saying, I'm a fan of Shadow the Hedgehog. There are many facets to his character that make him one of the most interesting to analyze, right next to the Blue Hedgehog himself. At one point in time, I believed that a lot of the characters in Sonic that weren't Sonic himself ended up being flanderized versions of themselves that were once well established and had some depth to them. I don't believe that anymore, and I'm not sure why I ever did. I gotta stop getting my opinions from YouTubers. Seriously though, if you pay attention to a lot of the stories over the years in the Sonic games, you'll see that none of the characters are ever really flanderized, or at least that's what I now believe. That's probably a video for another day, but for now, this is mostly true with Shadow himself. Shadow's character arc follows a pretty good through line throughout the 2000s. A being birthed from the blood of an alien, instilled with hatred after witnessing his one true friend Maria die at the hands of gun agents right before being sent to Earth and locked away. Originally wanting to blow up the Earth, Shadow saves it after recollecting Maria's true wish at the risk of his own life. From then on, Shadow struggles with his memory. He doesn't exactly remember all the details, but the one constant thing that I've noticed between SA2, Heroes, and Shadow's titular game is that Shadow, despite having a hazy memory, believes in himself above all else. We see this when he says that regardless of his memories being real or not, he's still Shadow, and that's what matters. He says that in Heroes as well, and this is where we see Shadow develop his sense of self. Being detached from his true memories allows Shadow to take the world in around him and develop his own thoughts, feelings, sense of purpose, etc. I used to think that this opening cutscene in Shadow's game was bad writing. His dismissal of humanity suddenly being victim of an alien invasion actually makes a lot of sense. It was human beings who killed the only people who understood him. It was humans that locked him away despite him doing nothing wrong. Why would he give a shit about these people at this point in time? He doesn't have his full memories back, and from what he can remember, every bad point in his life has been at the hands of human beings. By the end of the game, he regains his memories and saves the world from the Black Arms. With his newfound sense of self, he's able to put his past behind him, and here is where another point I made in my old video about Shadow is one that I now kind of disagree with. At the end of the video, I said that Shadow is more complex than the precious being who does it all for Maria like some people make him out to be. While he certainly does have his own reasons for doing things, I think Maria is still a major part of his character. I made the mistake of believing that Shadow putting the past behind him in his own game meant that he wouldn't give a shit about what Maria would have wanted, but he clearly still does. It's just not explicitly said, and it doesn't need to be. In Sonic 06, Mephiles plays on Shadow's underlying tension with humanity when it's revealed that Shadow was once again locked away 200 years into the future. Mephiles used this to try and persuade Shadow to join the dark side. What Mephiles never accounted for is that Shadow has come to believe in himself, and his own set of values on top of the ones given to him by Maria and Gerald 50 years ago. I gotta play this iconic scene once again.
Betray you. Why fight at all? Why risk your life for those who will persecute you later?
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
Shadow will absolutely do whatever he must to save the world alongside Sonic. However, if provoked, he will fight back, and honestly, that's pretty relatable. Speaking of Sonic, let's touch on how similar the two of them are. The two hedgehogs follow their own paths. They'll do whatever they need to accomplish their goals. One of my favorite shared traits between Sonic and Shadow is their flair for the dramatic. SA2 is the best example of what I'm talking about here. Both hedgehogs engage in the highest form of showmanship possible. Shadow makes a big show of revealing the Eclipse Cannon to Eggman once the evil genius frees him, just as Sonic makes a big show of his grand escape from military imprisonment. Both hedgehogs doing so with effortless charisma and charm in their own ways. Go back and listen to Shadow's voice lines in SA2 and Heroes. He revels in the chance to show off just as much as Sonic does, and that's why their rivalry is so fun to watch. I also said in that other video that Shadow has been relegated to just being Sonic's rival, but that's so obviously not true. Another interesting part of Shadow's character is his natural gravitation towards artificial life and mechanical settings. I believe Shadow has voice lines in Heroes stating his comfort in a place like Metropolis. Meanwhile, Sonic loves the feeling he gets from being in Seaside Hill. Another trait that, while it highlights their differences, shows how Sonic and Shadow are two sides of the same coin. One example I noted in my old Shadow video is how he's so careful in his interactions with machine life. He's taken to Omega and the two have a unique relationship. I've always liked this scene in Heroes where Shadow offers some words of encouragement to Omega, despite the two originally having been at each other's necks when they first met. Shadow showing that he's comfortable around Omega and on some level understands him. Omega's blunt way with words and an almost comedic bloodlust blends well with Shadow, who doesn't shy away from causing destruction if need be, and prefers to get straight to the point often. I also love how concerned he is for the robot partner in Free Riders in contrast to Rouge, who's less considerate. I hope we get more of these instances of Shadow's likeness towards artificial life in future games. I wonder how an interaction between Sage and Shadow would play out. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited about Sonato Generations. It's purely because we're finally getting more Shadow related content beyond the DLC episode that doesn't do much to add to his own story. If nothing else, I'm just excited to see the other characters in Sonic get some time to shine. Before I wrap this video up with a pretty bow, I must address this insane rant I went on at the end of my other video. What the hell was I on and why did nobody stop me? I start the rant off by saying that Shadow isn't written with much care these days, and I don't know why I said that because Shadow in Sonic Forces is handled damn near to perfection. The basic gist of my rant was that Shadow was there to simply pander to the older audience who first experienced him in the early to mid 2000s, and because of this pandering he isn't written with much depth. Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe my own ears when I recently rewatched the video myself. I was kinda spitting when I was talking about the whole anti-hero angle not making much sense though. Shadow's 1000% a good guy and there's never been a reason to doubt this since the end of his own game. Also, he never joined Gun. Just recently found out about that and I gotta spread the word. So, at the end of the day, who is Shadow the Hedgehog? Shadow is a straight to the point type of character. His approach to problem solving usually involves more ruthless actions and calculated planning. Not one for the jokes, but can be hilarious whenever he chooses to be. He's got a soft spot for artificial life due to being one himself, but he's also got a soft spot for organic life as well, even though he won't hesitate to fight back against humanity if push comes to shove. A hedgehog without many friends, but a group of loyal comrades that he can depend on and vice versa. Shadow the Hedgehog, for as complex as he is, has a simpleness to him paralleled by none other than everyone's favorite blue hedgehog. Shadow the Hedgehog is a shadow. What do I mean by that? Well, darkness is darkness no matter where it goes, but a shadow always shows a way to the light. So that's it. An updated video that for now holds my definitive opinion of Shadow the Hedgehog. What's your opinion on Shadow? Good, bad, somewhere in between? I invite you as always to share your thoughts in the comments below and check the channel for more Sonic goodness. Shout out to you for watching. I'm out.